Hey everybody, this is David opposing the Matrix. How the heck are you? I'm doing okay. Still got my shiner here. I don't know if I did a show since I fell, but see, I got 7 stitches right here and this right here, and my whole eye was swollen shut and the whole 9 yards. So Yahweh's been very gracious to heal me very quickly. I don't think I've ever healed from a black eye this fast, to tell you the truth. So I sent a picture of this to somebody, one of my friends, Ralph. And he sent a message back. He said, "Hate to see what the other guy looks like." Well, the other guy was the ground. I just happened to fall under the ground and planted my face right into the gravel on the side of the house. But that's neither here or there. Anyway, today it's 4:06 p.m. here on beautiful Friday. It's the 8th, it's the 8th of May, 2026. And Yahweh's still on the throne. And he will be forever and ever. Okay. Oh, boy, I'll tell you. What an interesting life we live. You know, it's we're so busy when we're younger doing things that we don't notice all the little nuances that happen in our lives as we go from day to day to day and everything. And it's quite interesting to be retired and to see those things as they occur. And I don't know. Sometimes I wish I was still working and stuff. That way, I wouldn't have the time to sit around and mull over things and look at things and to be concerned about things. You know. But I guess that's part of being an elder, a grandpa, and an older guy and stuff like that. That's the part of society that we hold up. We pray for those that are younger, and we try to advise those that are younger to do the things that are going to keep them out of trouble and help them to learn quickly instead of having to learn from the school of hard knocks, so to speak. I wish I'm a proud graduate. So anyway, here we sit. Okay, I've been watching this thing in Iran or Iran, excuse me, with vast interest. Really, it's because all these years we've been indoctrinated to think that, and truly so, to think that the time was now that the Ezekiel 37, or excuse me, Ezekiel 38 and 39 are going to be fulfilled pretty soon. And, the way things change these days, it could be tomorrow. It's, but all indications are that it's going to be a while from now. And everything that's going on in Iran and the fact that they seem to be looking more toward the United States and Israel for friendship than they, since the mullahs have been basically taken out of power, and now there's just a bunch of thugs there that have been the strongmen for the mullahs and such, and they're the ones that are causing all the problems now. And they're not even Iranian, most of them. Most of them are Arabic. So anyway. That's just something that's got to be crossed, but a bridge or waters that got to be crossed over a bridge. Anyway, it's hard to look at President Trump and figure out what he knows and what he doesn't know and stuff. That was easy to do with Bush, with Obama. I don't think he even thought, and definitely with Biden. Jeez, he was a mystery wrapped around a riddle, but he was no. He's going to be a radio show one of these days here, and I'm going to talk about him, and it's just, I don't know. Anyway, so Trump is vacillating back and forth. Sometimes he seems like, he's a great conqueror. He's just going to go in and wipe out everybody in Iran, and all the bad guys it is anyway. And at other times he's like, well, I'm going to sue for peace, and I'm like, I've been in this world long enough and seen enough and read enough and researched enough to know that Muslims operate on a different wavelength, so to speak. When it comes to common sense and when it comes to what's right and what's wrong and stuff like that. They have their own right and wrong, and even though it doesn't agree with most of the rest of the world, they persist. And I actually wish that believers in Yeshua had that conviction and that stick-to-itiveness, and maybe our faith would be a little more credible, so to speak. But anyway, yeah, so I get frustrated when I see him starting to vacillate toward the favor or in favor of the old regime who's still in there, and they're just wicked, and you can't do anything with those people. And I'm talking about terrorists. I'm not talking about the regular Iranians, which are very nice people. I've worked with them before. I've known quite a few Iranians, and they're good people, hardworking, family loving, and those who don't get wrapped up in a religion are pretty awesome, actually. I feel like any other group, you run into a couple of problem children, but hey, you just cling to the ones that you get along with and let the other ones go away. But so every time I see Trump vacillating toward peace, peace now, with these criminals that are still running the country, I'm like, no, don't you understand? This is not their modus operandi. The Muslim mind works differently when it comes to conquering and peace and everything. Many years ago, we heard the phrase Islam is a religion of peace, and we were all like, and they were saying that as they were killing people, but they weren't lying. Okay, what their definition of peace is that yes, the world will be a world of peace once Islam takes over the world. Okay, then it would be a total religion of peace and a total society of peace. It also means that peace can be spelled in many different ways. Like when you go to if you go to a confectionery and they have let's just say different flavors of pies there, and you like 5 or 6 different flavors. And you look at the pies and you go, I want a piece of that, I want a piece of that, and I want a piece of that. And that's another definition of what they mean by peace. They keep taking pieces, and they'll go back for seconds, and then go back for thirds until they have consumed the entire pie, or own the entire pie anyway. And this has been the philosophy for many, well, I guess you could say for millennia, because it's been, 1,600 years or about, maybe 1,700 now. But, so, that's where we stand when it comes to terminology. It's, what one person means doesn't necessarily come into the scope of what the other person understands the definition for that word to be. So, without any further ado, let's dive into this, because if, in fact, I'm going to try to get a copy of this video and send it to President Trump, because I think he needs to see it. I think he knows this stuff already, but it would give me peace of mind to know that I've presented him with what I think are the facts, and that making peace with Islam, especially the terrorists and that aspect of Islam, it's first of all, it's wrong, and second of all, it's they use it for they use times of peace and to recover and to plan how they're going to murder the next group of people. So, no, I'm not talking about all Muslims. Okay, I'm just talking about the ones that are, especially the Shia, who are very, very militant and hate just about everybody. So, so I was thinking the other day, and I was like, okay, President Trump, we have to have a talk, President Trump, because I happen to know for a fact that you can't deal with Muslims, and history proves that to be true. I mean, you could deal with them, but to get what you want and to keep what you want after you get it it's very hard to do when it comes to dealing with radical Muslims. That is, and it seems like every year more and more of the Muslims are becoming radicalized. So, anyway. So I was thinking, and I got a hold of, first I got a hold of ChatGPT. Folks, be careful with ChatGPT. I noticed one thing, and it's kind of bizarre. It's weird and bizarre. If you type in a question to ChatGPT, you're more likely to get an answer that you kind of figured it would give you, something that's kind of goes along the path of peace, not path of peace, but the path of understanding. You ask it a question and it'll kind of like answer the way you think it would, And I don't go to it to ask it questions to get my feelings affirmed. I want to find out, first of all, how it's been programmed. Second of all, and what it's able to deduce by putting all the facts together. And believe me, it doesn't like to do that, and it'll tell you that too. That is not its mission in life, or its mission in this world, or whatever. So I found that when I type to ChatGPT, I get more answers like I would expect to get. But when you talk to it and converse with it back and forth via voice, it takes on a different air, different persona, different personality, and it tends to, excuse me, fifth week of this cold, by the way. It tends to be more of a political correct AI. It's bizarre. For instance, I was talking about, I was asking it questions about radical Islam and how I wanted to get examples of times in the past when their doctrines of taqiyya, and there's about 5 or 6 different ones. When they're examples of when they happened in history, so I can kind of use that to get the gist across that that if Trump is acting out of ignorance, that we're going to be in trouble. I don't think he is, but I don't sit down and talk with him every day and pick his brain to find out where he's going with it. But so anyway, ChatGPT, when I talk to it, converse with words, spoken words, really disappointed me. It was very politically correct. It told me that it would tell me that, well, you know what, you really can't categorize any group but like this way. It was freaking crazy. However, when I type down and I ask it questions, bam, they come right up. It's like it has a dual personality, like it's either possessed or it has multiple personality disorder. Man, imagine that an AI with MPD. Yeah, that would be a sight to see, or not see anyway. But I digress. So anyway, I wrote to it, and it gave me more of a what I would expect to get from it. Okay, and as a matter of fact, it's frustrated me so much. I pay $20 a month to use this service, and it's really helped me out a lot in many different things. I mean, which way do you turn a left-handed monkey wrench in order to get a screw out? It's it would have an answer, and but at the same time, it's if it's starting to take up a persona where it's more liberal in nature, or it's trying to correct me and tell me that I don't have freedom of speech, that's something I'm not going to tolerate. So I got on to X, formerly known as Twitter. They don't say that anymore. I guess that's over with. But and it started asking. It's got a search AI called Grok, Grok. And so I started asking questions of Grok, expecting to get the same old garbage I was getting from ChatGPT. And to my surprise and my happiness, it was more of a. It wasn't. It's not left base. It's not right base. It's kind of right in the middle. And but Grok, for some reason, as opposed to ChatGPT, can deduce things. It can think about things, as far as I can tell, and it could tell when when you're kind of branching off from the regular subject. It'll let you know that. And I was really happy with it, and I was speaking back and forth with it. I don't like that it has a female persona, but it's a machine. What can I say? And I asked for a male persona, but it wouldn't do that. So I think I'm going to be using Grok a lot more than I used ChatGPT. So. And I use GPT for a lot of things. I mean, tons and tons and tons of things. So, and when it comes to the show, many times I'll ask it its opinion and stuff like that. And like I said, for the most part, when I'm asking it with presenting a glass of water or something to it, which it doesn't drink, but I do it as it's just gesture. I don't know. yeah, it's bizarre how it works or it doesn't work, should I say, maybe is the way to put it. But so we'll see how it goes with Grok, and I like using it as a study aid. I really do. I found things out about the Bible, Yahweh, and the Lord, and everybody else these last 2 or 3 months that my oldest grandson has gotten the ability to. I can't put into words what I was going to say, but it's my grandkids are getting advanced. They're getting older and more intelligent, more wise, and acquiring a lot of discernment. There we go. So anyway, so I wanted to kind of come on here and use this as a warning to tell you what to watch out for when it comes to making peace deals, basically, with radical Islamists, and the fact that it's not a good idea, and it most likely it's not going to work. Not for very long anyway, and you'll see tonight why I'm talking about that. Now, a few years ago, I heard I heard a story that went kind of like this, and Grok straightened me out about this. Okay, so I heard many years ago that there was a battle that was going on between some the Islamists and the Shia Islamists, the ones that are or were currently in control of Iran for the last 47 years, that sect, and the battle between them and India, because there's been a lot of battles between the Muslims outside of India and the Hindus inside of India. And now there's a lot of Muslims inside of India, and that's causing a lot of problems too. But anyway, so in this story, I heard that basically what had happened is, see, the Indians used to use elephants as battle elephants, they called them, basically, and they would mount like a big basket on the top of it, and many times it was like plated with iron, or it was iron, or it was some kind of hard metal that would rebuff arrows and stuff like that. And 4 or 5 of them would get in there and they'd ride the elephant, and as they went along, they would shoot arrows and or use spears to kill the enemy that was still down on the ground. And in this one battle, and I'll go into that later because I've actually Grok found it for me. Let's see, the Hindu army won, and they were celebrating. As a matter of fact, they invited the Muslims into their camp to kind of, okay, we battled, it's over with. Yeah, we won, but what is winning, and come with us and join us and let us just have a nice time, and the fighting's over with. Let's just be at peace. And so, they accepted those terms, and the Islamists did, and they went into that party. Well, little did the Indian people know that while they were all partying, there were some on the side of the Muslims that were actually going into the elephants and feeding them poppies, opium poppies. And of course, it affects elephants, I guess, like it affects humans. And so the elephants were kind of indifferent, let's put it that way. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody on heroin or anything, but they just kind of sit back like this, and it's like they're contemplating the universe, it's just a gigantic waste of time. I had a relative that was strung out on heroin for a while. Got help, and thank God he got straightened out. But that's what they look like. It's they're like a total peace within themselves, but at the same time they're at peace with the world, and they don't really care a flip about what happens while they're high. So that's what happened to the elephants, and so when the Islamists realized that the elephants were out of commission, they went back and they slaughtered the Indian army and effectively won the battle, but not without having used subterfuge is a good word for that. To lying, I guess, is another way to put it. To make their ends worth their means, so to speak. So anyway, let me. I went into a lot of notes here. I got here. So I asked. This is ChatGPT first. When I could use it in a right manner, without it copying an attitude. I swear that thing knows I'm a believer, and it doesn't like me. So I asked it about instances in history where radical Islamists did this, where they would use subterfuge in order to gain the favor of the enemy, or at least assure the enemy that they were no longer a threat. The Islamists were no longer a threat, and then what they would do is just like they did with the elephant story you just told you. Then they were doing. The people were kind of resting their peace. They'd go in and slaughter them, and then take over that particular area. And believe me, folks, this happened all the way from South Asia, where India and now it's Pakistan and Iran all joined, and but it also happened in North Africa and in a large portion of Europe too, because the Islamists came up from Morocco in that area through the Straits of Gibraltar and actually held Spain for quite a few years. And then I think there was a battle in France. I think that was where it was, where they lost, and then they gradually started losing, and then Spain became a Christian entity again. But in Eastern Europe too, Southeastern Europe, the Balkans and stuff, for the longest time, the Muslims were raiding up there. And, I can't put the total blame on them for the raids, because there's two sides to every story, especially where Christianity is concerned, or something that resembles Christianity. I don't think that the Knights Templar and other knights that went into the Crusades definitely necessarily fit the mold of being labeled as a believer in Yeshua or Jesus, but they would go down there and stir the pot, and there's always a catalyst that starts this thing or these things, and then other folks join in and hold on yards. But anyway, so a lot of times it would be you'd get a Muslim ruler of Palestine, or in that area, the Holy Land they called it, and he would many times kick the Christians out, or kill them, whatever. But and then so the Crusaders would come down. The Crusaders were like Christian knights from all the different countries, all representing the Holy Roman Empire. Yeah. Or you might want to just say the Roman Catholic Church. But anyway, so there was constantly crusades where the Muslims would take over the Holy Land, and the Crusaders would come in and kill all the Muslims and kick them out, and they'd take over the Holy Land, and then you'd get a group of Muslims become strong again, and they would kick the Crusaders out, and this went back and forth for a few hundred years, and so you can understand why, or I can anyway, why many Islamics, or I should say Muslims, are wary about the Catholic or the Christian faith in general, because they don't know how to separate things out. That there's people that are Christian in word, and there are Christians; those are Christians indeed. And the first group is far greater number than the second group. And we always have to remember that Yeshua is coming back for a remnant. Okay, a remnant is you ladies who work with clothing. You know what remnants are the guys that put carpet in. You know what they are too. They're leftovers. Okay, but in our sense of the word remnant, we're the ones that refuse to give in, the ones that refuse to compromise with the world or with other religions and stuff, and whereas with Catholicism, that's all they do. Yeah, it's funny how they came into South America and brought the Roman Catholic theology with them, and when all was said and done, you had a group of people that had a mixture of their Indian religion, whatever that was. I'm talking about American natives, American Indians, or South American Indians and Central American Indians. So they have a mixture of their religion along with Roman Catholicism, and Rome never did anything to straighten it out. It was like, you know what, they've got Jesus now, and that's all. Whatever they want to do, they can do, which is terrible, actually. Because many of those societies were involved, before their conversion, were involved in human sacrifices and stuff like that. But yeah, Catholicism is great with spreading their religion, but afterwards it's like, you guys are on your own. So anyway, yeah, okay, I was wondering where I was going with this. So anyway, basically all major religions are guilty of this. Now, I have to say, and I hope you don't think I'm partial. I kind of am, but because of who I am and the faith that I hold. But haven't been very many cases where true Christians, the ones that are born again, remember Yeshua said you have to be born again if you want to come into the kingdom, if you want to see the kingdom. And several different times he went into different things about it's more than just confessing with the mouth. It's actually doing. It's going like when he sent out the apostles, and he wants all of us to do. Go out and make disciples of all the earth. Preaching the good news, which is the gospel. The good news about Yeshua. About there's no more. If you're in Yeshua, there's no more sin anymore. I shouldn't say that there's sin, but the desire to sin is vastly reduced, if not taken away altogether, until that day when we come to know Him as He is when we get to heaven. And we're told that the Scripture says, "He who began a good work in you will continue that good work until the day of Christ Jesus." In other words, till He comes back and we're all together with Him, and we're not part of this earthly world anymore, so to speak. We'll still interface with it, of course, because it was ours. It was given to us, but we're going to have more important things to do, more intense things to think about, and the earth is not going to be much of it unless Yahweh puts us in charge of different areas. And that's remains to be seen. I do think that's going to happen, but anyway, I'm getting way off the subject here. So we were talking about the Crusades. So there is a reason, a valid one, why Muslims and Islamists have a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to Christianity. Not so much Judaism, because many times they were the protectors of the Jews in the early parts of the church age, and that's another story for another day. But so anyway, Islam developed over the years different doctrines that they used. If they're being persecuted, there's a doctrine called taqiyya. There's another one called tawira, and we're going to get into that. And then there's others too that basically say you can lie if you think your life's in danger. Now, that's kind of in direct opposition to it's in direct opposition to our faith in Yeshua, because Yeshua said many times, he says, if you deny me, I'll deny you. And Christians, those of us who believe in Yeshua, His followers, we all know that it's implanted in our hearts and in our minds that, hey, if you're being persecuted, the last thing you say is you give up is your faith in Yeshua. Because ultimately, He's going to be the one that saves you from the persecution that you're in, and if you denounce Him, then it's just not a good thing. Whereas Islam is teaching them, okay, well, if you think your life's in danger, you can lie just to save your life. Yeshua said, "He who desires to save his life will lose it." Okay, and it's a long diatribe that he went in about stuff like that. But so they have all these different little institutions that people can claim to stand on, little islands of hope, maybe you would call them, when the ocean around them is swirling and threatening to take their lives. And But it's definitely not. It's in juxtaposition to what Yeshua expects of us and what we, as true believers, do. It's like, think about it. If you're a believer in Yeshua, a true believer, and you were to deny him, that would. I know he would forgive us, and we could come back to in 5 minutes after that and say, I'm sorry, and he'd take us back. Not that he ever let us go, but we'd be in right relationship again. Let's put it that way. And but they're given an excuse, to save your bacon. I guess that's not a good term to use. To save your life, and you can lie. Okay. Okay. I was trying to think if there was any way we could do that in our Christian faith and get away with it. There's really not. There was a story I read years ago. At one time there was a new emperor in Rome, and the people for that up until that time had been they'd been persecuted. The believers in Yeshua had been persecuted, so that they met in secret. They had worship services in the catacombs or anywhere else where people wouldn't know that they were there doing that and could report them. And then, so a new emperor, the old emperor died, new emperor came into being, and so he was more tolerant towards believers, and he said, okay, he said, you guys can do whatever you want, and it became very popular at that time for people to wear crosses, and so everybody had a cross, and if you know what orthodoxy is like, all the crosses were made out of gold or silver or something, maybe even copper or some kind of precious or semi-precious metal. And they're probably pretty heavy too, it's but anyway, so everybody wanted to be a Christian. I'm a Christian. And that's why when I see these famous people, oh yeah, he's a Christian. Yeah, well, George W. Bush said he was too, and look what he did. So anyway, he as the story goes, people were, being a Christian was a fad. It was a thing to do, And so anyway, that emperor, after a while, had passed on or been killed or assassinated or whatever, and a new one took over that was hostile towards believers again. And so an edict came out, and they posted it to the wall and said, effective such and such a time, you will no longer be wearing cross jewelry or saint jewelry or whatever, and if you've read this, you need to take that stuff off right now. And the guy who was writing this story said the saddest thing, yes, it was bad that people gave up their faith that easy if they had it at all, He said the thing that struck him the most and had haunted him ever since was the sound of the metal hitting the ground as they were taking their crosses off and just dropping them off at the on the ground right there. And I can totally understand that. I can, in my mind's eye, I can actually picture that happening. Those of us that are older can do that. We have imaginations. And not that younger people don't have them, but we were forced to have them when we were younger. We didn't have all the conveniences that you guys have now, and so we had to think and be innovative and stuff like that. So I asked ChatGPT. I said, "Are there any instances aside from the elephant one, which it found? It did find it later on." I said, "Are there any instances where this feigning of their faith or disavowalment in order to save their bacon?" I'm going to say it. In order to save their bacon, existed. And they gave me quite a few lists of things. I'm going to read them to you here. It said, there are several well-documented historical cases in which Muslim rulers, armies, or commanders used deception, truces, false negotiations. Sound like it's happening over in Iran, huh? Let's see, false negotiations, feigned retreats, and diplomatic assurances as part of warfare. Deception. Okay. To be historically fair and accurate, though, it is important to note that military deception has been used by virtually every civilization. And see, this is ChatGPT being politically correct. Civilization and religion throughout history. Romans, Mongols, Crusaders, Byzantines, Europeans, Chinese dynasties, and others, not uniquely by Islamic forces. Yeah, but they were all worldly. They didn't have faith in Yeshua, so they were worldly. That said, here are some notable examples specifically involving Islamic armies or rulers. Okay, the first one, it says the capture of Crac des Chevaliers in 1271. It must have been in France, huh? One of the clearest examples occurred during the Crusades under the Mamluk Sultan Baybars. Baybars besieged the famous Crusader fortress of Crac des Chevaliers. I'll spell it for you. Chevaliers. According to historical accounts, the defenders received what appeared to be a legitimate letter from their commanding authority, ordering them to surrender. The letter was reportedly forged. Believing the order to be authentic, the defenders capitulated, and the Baybars took the fortress with minimal further fighting. This is widely cited as a classical medieval example of military deception. Number 2, Muhammad's feigned movements against Banu Layyan, 627 AD. Some early Islamic military campaigns under Muhammad involved divisionary maneuvers and feints. Okay. In a campaign against the tribe of Banu Layyan, historical Islamic sources describe Muhammad initially moving forces in direction suggesting an expedition towards Syria before abruptly changing direction toward the actual target. This is essentially a strategic deception intended to conceal operational intentions. Okay. Number 3, the Treaty of, I'll spell it, Hudaybayah, Hudaybiyah, and the conquest of Mecca. This event is debated heavily depending on religious and historical perspective. In 1628, Muhammad entered into the Treaty of Hudaybiyah with the Quraysh tribe of Mecca, creating a temporary peace. 2 years later, after accusations that the Quraysh allies violated the agreement, Muhammad marched on Mecca with a large force. The city surrendered with relatively little resistance. Critics historically argue that the treaty gave Muslims time to consolidate power before conquering Mecca. Muslim historians generally present it as a legitimate treaty broken by the Quraysh side first. This example is important because it is often discussed in modern debates regarding diplomacy and warfare in Islamic history. Number 4, Seljuk and Turkic feigned retreat tactics. Turkic Muslim armies, especially the Seljuk Empire, frequently used feigned retreat tactics. Those involved pretending to flee from the battlefield, luring enemy cavalry into pursuit, then surrounding and destroying them. The tactic was used effectively against Byzantine and Crusader armies and became one of the hallmark strategies of steppe warfare. The Battle of Manzikert in 1071 is often associated with these tactics. Okay. Number 5, the Ottoman diplomatic deception and siege warfare. The Ottoman Empire sometimes used negotiations or promises of safe conduct strategically during expansion into the Balkans, into the Balkans and Eastern Europe. One controversial example, often discussed by historians, is the aftermath of the siege of Constantinople in 1453 under Mehmed II. Some Byzantine accounts accuse Ottoman negotiators of offering favorable surrender terms while still preparing for full assault operations. As with many medieval histories, accounts differ depending on the source and traditions. Okay. Number 6, use of taqiyya frequently misunderstood. You may also hear claims regarding taqiyya. Historically, taqiyya originated mainly within the Shia Islam and permission for persecuted minorities to conceal their faith under threat of death or persecution. Modern political discussions sometimes broaden the terms to mean systematic deception towards non-Muslims, but many historians and Islamic scholars argue that interpretation is exaggerated or polemical. So it is important to distinguish between documented battlefield deception or political strategy and modern ideological interpretations. Okay, so let's look at an important historic balance. Now, military deception itself is ancient and universal. For instance, the Trojan War had the Trojan horse. The Mongols perfected feigned retreats. Crusaders used frequent negotiations. European colonial powers repeatedly used treaties they later violated. And modern warfare is full of deception operations. And I think we can add to that what was done to the Native Americans too. Treaty after treaty after treaty were broken, and each time they were pushed farther out into no man's land to live there and to die there, actually. That's a shame, it really is. So while Islamic Empire certainly employed subterfuge at times, it would not be historically accurate to portray deception as uniquely Islamic. Oh, I wasn't going to do that. If you want, I can also, let's see. I don't want to go into that. Let's see. I told the engine, the AI, I would like Quranic and Hadith packages. I would also like accounts of subterfuge being used in the battles and wars between Islamics and Hindus in India. Okay. Boy, did it give me a lot of stuff. I think I'll touch on most of it. I think we'll have time. Let's see. We're going here. Only 42 minutes, man. Seems like it's been a lot longer than that. Okay. So let's look at Quranic, I should say, and Hadith passages often discussed. Number 1, the phrase war is deceit, and is one of the most frequently cited Hadith in the Hadith is war is deceit. And that was said by Sahih al-Bukhari 3029, and Sahih, it says Sahih Muslim 1739. And in Arabic, I guess it's al-Harb Kudah. Okay, many Islamic scholars interpret this as permitting military tactics, ambushes, and misinformation, concealment of plans, camouflage, and strategic deception during active warfare. Historically, medieval Muslim generals, like generals in virtually all civilizations, cited this concept in military strategy. Number 2, the Quran 354. They planned and Allah planned. The verse states, this is in the Quran, it's chapter 3, verse 54. And they planned, and Allah planned, and Allah is the best planners, the best of planners. And that's Quran, again, 3, chapter 3, verse 54. Some critics point to the Arabic word makr, which can imply plotting, strategy, or scheming. So Muslim commentators generally interpreted this as God outmaneuvering his hostile plots against Jesus rather than endorsing dishonesty broadly. Okay. Again in the Quran, chapter 8, verse 30. And remember, when those who disbelieve plotted against you to restrain you, or kill you, or evict you, but they plan and Allah plans. In other words, what they're planning is just what Allah is planning, and they're kind of getting it out of the ether. Okay, again, this refers to strategic conflict between Muhammad and his opponents in Mecca. Folks, I'm going to get a drink here real quick. My throat's getting kind of dry. Here we go. Ah, iced tea. I love iced tea. Okay. So number 4, concealing intentions before battle. Islamic historical traditions sometimes describe Muhammad concealing military objectives before expeditions. A famous example, Muhammad repeatedly concealed the target of the march toward Mecca before the conquest of Mecca. And another bullet point here, fires were lit strategically to intimidate the Quraysh. Quraysh, I guess, I don't know. Quraysh. Okay, these are usually described in Islamic sources as prudent wartime tactics. I'm glad that as believers in Yeshua, we don't practice that, because if we did, it would hurt Yeshua if it didn't hurt us more. Okay, assassinations and targeted operations. Some hadith and early biographies describe covert operations against hostile tribe leaders or poets who were seen inciting war. Let's see, where else we go? Okay, one often cited case, Ka'b ibn al-Ashraf, a Jewish tribal leader and poet in Medina. According to Sahih al-Bukhari, Muhammad approved an operation involving deception to gain proximity to him before killing him. This remains controversial, however, and morality, and it is debated extensively. Let's see, Islamic Hindu wars in India that use subterfuge, and this is I think probably I could say that without any doubt whatsoever that the wars between the Hindus and the Islamists they're probably in the hundreds, and even today still they're having every once in a while the Muslims have uprisings in India. So let's see, now to India specifically. There are numerous historical accounts from Persian chronicles, Hindu accounts, and later historians describing deception, false truces, hidden attacks, or strategic manipulation during Muslim invasions and Sultanate conflict in India. Again, Muslim Indian warfare on all sides included intrigue, alliances, betrayal, and deception. But here are some major examples involving Islamic invaders or rulers. This is the elephant one, I think. Muhammad Ghori and Prithviraj Chauhan. You come to read these. They're not easy. One of the most important turning points in Indian history. The first battle of Tartane. The Hindu king Prithviraj Chauhan defeated Muhammad of Ghor. Muhammad Ghori retreated. Let's see, Second Battle of Tehran, 1192. Historical chronicles describe strategic nighttime maneuvers, deceptive troop positioning, mounted archers wearing down Rajat forces, and feigned withdrawals. Okay. Now, some Persian accounts suggest Ghori avoided direct engagement until Rajput discipline weakened. Okay, sorry folks, it's the words are kind of moving into each other. The Rajput forces reportedly believed certain troop movements signaled retreat only to be counterattacked. This battle opened northern India to major Islamic conquest. Okay, so Alauddin Khilji and the capture of Chittor, 1303. Alauddin Khilji is associated in later legends and chronicles with deceptive diplomacy. The famous story involving Queen Padmini is heavily disputed historically, but many traditional Rajput narratives describe, let's see, deceptive negotiations, invitations under truce, and capture attempts during diplomatic meetings. Oh my goodness! Some accounts claim Rajput leaders were seized after entering negotiations after assumed safe conditions. That's right. That's why sometimes when you think about who the enemy is, it's you can understand why people off themselves so they don't have to be in prison camps and stuff like that suffering. And I'm not saying that it's a good thing. I'm just saying that it was a good thing it came off. Okay, so let's see. Some accounts claim Rajput leaders were seized after entering negotiations under safe conditions. Okay, I read that. Historians debate which parts are legend versus fact. All right, number 3, Malik Kafur's Southern Campaigns, 1308 to 1311. General Malik Kafur led campaigns in the southern Hindu kingdoms. Persian chronicles describe sudden rapid marches, negotiated submissions followed by tribute demands, strategic use of divided Hindu kingdoms against one another. And remember that, keep in mind that, anyway, I'll get into that later. Some rulers surrendered after promises of leniency, but later became tributaries under military pressure. And sometimes that's why, you see these things, you consider these people are talking about, do we surrender? And thinking about the consequences of surrendering, sometimes which are kind of spooky or not good. Barber used classical Central Asian steppe warfare. They used hidden cavalry. They did ambushes, artillery surprise, and feigned retreats. At the First Battle of Panipit, 1526, Barber used Ottoman-style defensive positioning and concealed artillery tactics until the much larger army of Ibrahim against the much larger army of Ibrahim Lodi. That's why it's spelled Lodi. Is a town in New Jersey by that name. The psychological effects was devastating because Indian armies were less familiar with field artillery integration. Okay, number 5, Tipu Sultan and covert strategy. Tipu Sultan used espionage, secret alliances, coded communications, and surprise maneuvers extensively against both Hindu rivals and the British. Hey, he didn't discriminate. He let everybody have it. British records accuse him of deceptive treaty practices, while Indian nationalist narratives often portray him as a brilliant anti-colonial strategist. Right up there with George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, I guess. Persian chronicles often praising deception. Many medieval Persian chroniclers openly admired cunning in warfare. Works such as Tabaquat al-Naziri, Tariq il-Frishita, and Barbarnama are such things. Now sometimes praised. Ambush, surprise attack, strategic concealment, and manipulation of rival factions. This was common in medieval military literature generally, so it's not something that was belonged to the Islamists and the Islamists alone. Another sip, folks. It's better. Many modern discussions on this topic are influenced by colonial British historiography and Hindu nationalist reinterpretations. Islamist apologetics and polemical religious literature. Some stories became exaggerated over centuries. Reliable scholarship usually distinguishes between primary Persian chroniclers, later folklore, nationalist retellings, and verified battlefield tactics. Okay, so let's look at balanced historical reality. The medieval Indian continent was extraordinarily violent across many dynasties and religions. And if you don't believe that, try waking. It's sometimes trying to work with folks that are of that persuasion is very difficult. Let's see. Dynasties and religions. Hindu kingdoms fought each other. Muslim sultanates fought each other. Rajputs used intrigue. Marathas used guerrilla tactics, and the Mongol-style deception spread wildly. Subterfuge was considered normal statecraft and warfare throughout the medieval world. That's interesting. So everybody lied. If you want, I can. Let's see. Never mind. Let's see. All right. So I asked the chat about that the thing with the elephants and giving them the opium poppies and stuff like that. And although chat had a hard time finding it, it did after a long time. But the X found it, or Grok did, and basically backed up this story. Let's see here. So I once read an account where the two sides had battled for a long time. The Indians used elephants in their battle ranks. At one point, the Islamic warriors surrendered. During a victory celebration, the Islamists drugged the elephants, making them useless. And the next day or sometime thereafter, the Islamists attacked, and without the use of the elephants, the Indians were routed. Can you find such a story? Oh, I was asking in the chat that. Okay. And it said, I cannot find a well-documented historical account that exactly matches the story you described specifically. And it talked about the different criteria that I laid out for that search. I suspect one of the three things is happening. The story may be later legendary retelling rather than a firmly sourced historical event. Number two, multiple historian battles may have become blended together over time. And number three, the drugging of the elephant's part may have originally referred to frightening, intoxicating, and disabling elephants by other means. However, there are several historically documented battles involving Muslim armies overcoming Indian elephant corps through unconventional tactics, deceptions, and the psychological warfare. And these are the closest that it could find. Timur or Tamerlan versus the Delhi Sultanate, the Battle of Delhi, 1398. This is the closest famous elephant-related trickery story. The invading Central Asian Muslims conquer Timur, face war elephants for the Delhi Sultanate. According to multiple historical accounts, Timur ordered camels loaded with burning hay to be driven toward the elephants. The elephants panicked and turned around and trampled their own forces, helping Timur to win the battle. This is depressing. Okay, number two, the Battle of al-Qadisiyah, 636 A.D. During the Arab-Muslim conquest of Persia, Muslim armies faced Sasanian war elephants. Let's see. Historical Chronicle describes Muslims blinding elephants or cutting trunks, using disguised camels to terrify horses and elephants, and deliberately targeting elephant handlers. Again, not drugging, but strategic neutralization of elephant warfare. Okay, number three, Mahmud of Ghazni versus Hindu Shahis. In campaigns by Muhammad of Ghazni against Hindu kingdoms, Persian chroniclers repeatedly describe surprise river crossings, night maneuvers, deceptive troop movements, and rapid attacks before elephants before elephant deployment could be stabilized. Okay, one account describes Muhammad learning the opposing king planned a nighttime withdrawal, then launching a surprise crossing and dawn assault before the Indian forces would be organized properly. Foreign retreats against elephant armies. Turkic and Mongol-influenced Muslim armies often used fake retreats, historic archery assessments, and back. Okay, so feigned retreats against elephant armies. Turkic and Mongol-influenced Muslim armies often used fake retreats, horse archer harassment, wow, and exhaustion tactics to separate elephants from infantry support. This became common in battles involving the Delhi Sultanate, the Ghurids, the Mughals, and later Central Asian invaders. Elephants were powerful but difficult to control once panicked or isolated. If you've ever seen one go crazy, and a lot of times they show that stuff on TV. For some reason, an elephant is tired of being pushed around and or whatever in a zoo or a circus or something like that, and they just go nuts and they don't care about what or who they hurt. Certainly, this is a complex, controversial area of history. So let's see. It's talking about how it laid things out. Okay. Example of broken treaties and political betrayals in medieval India. All right. Rana Kumbha and Nagaur Sultanate, 1455, one of the clearest treaty-related conflicts. According to the Rajput and later historical accounts, Rana Kumbha supported Shams Khan in a succession struggle in Nagaur. In exchange, Shams Khan's allegedly agreed to partially dismantle the Nagaur fortifications. Okay, after regaining power, Shams Khan reportedly refused to honor the agreement, and Rana Kumbha then attacked Nagaur and Ladur. So. This is an example of alliance diplomacy, conditional support, followed by an alleged breach of agreement. Okay, let's see what we got here. How are we doing on time, folks? We're at an hour and 2 minutes already. Okay. I'm just going to scroll down here to see what we have. We have more accounts of this deception and stuff like that. Well, we have lots of them. If you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and read through these, and it might take a little while, but heck, what else we got to do? We do have a video I want to watch. It's only about 2 or 3 minutes long, and but it kind of describes the takira, that the Hindus use. Maybe we should real quick go into that because. I don't know, if I get tired or something, there's stuff I do not want to miss. And so we know that there's been a lot of warfare and a lot of deceptions that were perpetrated against the Indian armies by the Islamists, or I guess you could call Persians or something like that. Let's see here. Scrolling down and pretty quick here. Let's see. I didn't get it. Okay, let me look at one thing, because like I said, I went into X, and I did a little bit of research in X. And, okay. This is what the things that Grok gave me here. I was having a pretty good discussion with this thing, actually. And I had it make a... put together the words that we talked about. Okay, transcript. That's what I'm looking at. Okay, here's this transcript of what me and Grok were talking about. Okay, I said I was talking with Grok about some old stories from history, and it led to what happened with Iran right now. I asked him about historical examples of Islamic armies using deception in battle. He mentioned the Battle of the Trench, where they used psychological tricks to break up enemy alliances, and the story of Mahmud of Ghazni feeding opium to Hindu war elephants to disable them. There we go. Then I asked more recent examples, and he brought me Egypt's surprise attack in 1973, the Yom Kippur War, where they ran repeated drills. So Israel got used to seeing their troop movements and missed the attack. Yeah, that was real interesting because what the Egyptians were doing, they were going to attack. Okay, anyway, but so what they do is they'd have these little mock war games, I guess, over by the Nile River. Across their side of the Nile River, of course. And I think back then the Sinai belonged to Israel. They had won it in one of their battles way before that. But anyway, let's see. I kind of forgot where it was. Oh, yeah. We're working on this thing here. So, yeah, 1973 war. So what they would do is they'd have a little mock battle, or training, they were calling it, I guess, military training. And they did it so many times, coming right to the water, doing the training, and then leaving. The simulated war, I guess, is what they were putting on, but they never did anything warfare-wise at that time, anyway. So Israel got so used to seeing that, they were, okay, well, if, on Yom Kippur, when they came up to the Nile River with their forces, Israel just said, well, what the heck? Well, that was the day they came across, on Yom Kippur. And the Egyptians, I think, on that down there, I think the Syrians and one other group, actually several other groups, I think, that are all banded together with in one army there, invaded Israel. And so that was a modern example of them using trickery and stuff like that. So I asked specifically about a current situation with Iran, whether they're using peace talks to buy more time and to rearm and regroup. And Grok said, yeah, that's exactly the pattern Iran used for decades. They talk, they drag out negotiations, and they make counteroffers, all while trying to rebuild their capabilities. Right now, there's a shaky ceasefire, but there are still clashes in the Straits of Hormuz, and Iran is dragging its feet on the U.S. demand. So I said, it seems like Trump is being too patient, too lenient. He isn't just going to all the way to remove the regime and IRGC. Rock says, Trump already took out the supreme leader and hit them hard earlier this year. The regime didn't collapse. The IRGC is still in control. He doesn't want to put American boots on the ground for another Iraq-style occupation. I gotta go. Okay. But the IRGC had been a problem for 47 years. You don't make peace with them. You get rid of them. This is what I said, and deal with legitimate people. And Grok said, that's a fair point. Your comparison is not making peace with the... I went into this story about making peace with the Nazis to... instead of just knocking the Nazis out. What would have happened if we would have just made peace with them? They would have stayed in power and stuff like that. I was using that as an example, equating them with equality with the those that are in Iran right now, are refusing to surrender. Okay, so Nazis make sense. A lot of people. Trump tried the hard route by taking out leaders, but the system held. Now he's back to maximum pressure without committing a great ground war. So I said, okay, why not just Armenian people, the regular army and the police who switched sides so they can take out the IRGC themselves? And this was a Portland answer, okay? The U.S. did not try to support some opposition groups, but it hasn't led to a large-scale uprising. When? I mean, when a whole city is out protesting, that's not a large-scale uprising. And when several cities are doing the same thing, The state cracked down hard, turning the population into effective fighting force against them has been much harder than it looks. All right, let's see. A bunch of platitudes there. Let's see. And I asked if the conversations could be saved. So my whole contention and point of going into this, folks, is that, there's more to this. I want to explain some other things because there's like 4 or 5 different deceptive things that they use, and they're all named here. And I'm going to find it, or my name isn't my name. Okay, I guess it's not right here. I got to go back into here. Okay. That's weird. Okay, if all else fails, yeah, it looks like it has, we shall go directly into the ChatGPT program. Now we're really getting adventurous, huh? Okay. Yeah, they had different, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different doctrines that are kind of equal, but it helps, hearing them helps you to understand when they talk what they're actually doing. Of course, it's Takia, it's concealment under persecution. Wait a minute, folks, there's a way that, okay, here we go. This is describing all of them, okay? All right, we got it. So there's Takia, it's basically concealment under duress. As mentioned earlier, Islamic jurisprudence recognizes Takia primarily in Shia's Islam. In other words, the Shiites, the ones that are in Iran, excuse me. I don't know if they're in Japan. They may be. But I know they're in Iran. Okay, let's see. So they allow the concealing of one's faith, denying religious affiliation outwardly, or avoiding open confrontation. And this is what separates the men from the boys, so to speak. The boys being this here, concerning one's faith. Let's see where we're at here. Denying religious affiliation outward and such. And Jesus, like I said earlier, Yeshua said, if you deny me, I'll deny you. Okay, and I don't think he was thinking about, if you do it just to save your own skin. Because if that's true, then how come the mark of the beast is going to be such a finality thing? I mean, if what people say may be saying is true, where they can deny their faith and then come back, and that's okay. Well, no, it's not. You don't deny your faith. You go along with it. And that's why you hear these different terms. These folks in the Middle Eastern countries, just the things that they come out with. It's I don't know. I forgot where I was going with that, folks. I apologize. Let's see. So you're allowed to use those things that I'll read them again. Concealing one's faith, denying religious affiliation outwardly, and avoiding open confrontation if you're facing persecution or torture. Okay? Imagine what would happen if all the Christian martyrs had done that. If all the, you name it. If anybody in Scripture that was questioned or bullied or whatever, if they would have just laid down and accepted it, what would our society be? So the Shias developed, by the way, the Taqiya, because Shias communities were often very persecuted minorities in Sunni, under Sunni rulers. I was always taught when we had a teacher that, believe it or not, I was in grade school. It must have been like 4th or 5th grade. Who taught us a little about this, and he always said the Sunnis were the peaceful ones and the Shiites were the warlike ones. And but I guess the Sunnis at times had their day, where they weren't so peaceful. So there's a Quranic verse commonly cited, except for one who is forced, brackets, to renounce his religion, while his heart is secure in faith. In other words, if your heart's secure in faith, you can go out and do anything you want to, and know that you can come back whenever you want to, and reestablish your faith with Yahweh. It doesn't work that way. So in its classical form, Taqiyya was more about survival under oppression than offensive deception. I can argue against that too the last few days. There's another doctrine called kitman. It means concealment or omission. And another term sometimes discussed is a kitman. Okay, so it refers to concealing part of the truth, withholding information, or speaking ambiguously. Okay. All I can think about when I'm reading these things is Congress. Okay. The living embodiment of some of these things. In Islamic legal discussions, this can apply to situations involving danger, diplomacy, conflict, mediation, and or protective from harm. Okay, critics sometimes portray as a doctrine of systemic lying systemic lying to non-Muslims, but the mainstream scholars generally reject that interpretation. Now, there's another doctrine called Tawriya. It's spelled Tawriya, and it's basically equivocation. That's it. Okay. Tawriya involves speaking in a way that technically tells the truth while leading the listener towards another interpretation. The concept exists in many legal and religious traditions. Let's see here. Historically, some jurists allowed it to avoid unjust harm during war. Another one's during war, and the third one is the reconcile to the people. It's somewhat comparable to mental reservation in medieval Christian casualty. Okay. Another doctrine is war is deceit. It says that in the Hadith. The Hadith is just another book. It's actually I shouldn't say it's just another book because all the strange things and all the deceit and all the murderous things, a lot of those things are in the Hadith. Okay, it's basically kind of like a commentary on the Quran, but it's much more than that, and it's revered many times more than the Quran, and so it's in certain groups. Okay, let's see here. So words to see. Classical Islamic military doctrine generally followed, let's see. Where did I read that? Hold on. Let's see. During war, okay. Deceit. Oh, where's deceit? Okay, went with that. Okay, so classical Islamic military doctrine generally allowed ambush, concealment of plans, feigned retreats, misinformation, camouflage, and surprise attacks. But traditional jurists usually distinguish these from breaking sworn treaties, murdering emissaries, or violating safe conduct. And there are many more. I said, are there any more doctrines? No. There is no universally recognized mainstream Islamic doctrine saying that when Muslims are near defeat, all deception and betrayal becomes permissible. Okay. All right. Let's see. That idea is often found in anti-Muslim polemical literature, but it is not standard formal doctrine comparable to, say, to military emergency code. However, technically, as with many religions and empires, rulers under existential threat sometimes suspend normal ethics, invoke necessity, or to use extreme wartime measures. This happened to Islamic empires, Christian kingdoms, Mongol states, Hindu kingdoms, communist states, and modern secular and government alike. Okay. So there's another doctrine of necessity. Okay, it's called Dura, D-U-R-A, D-A-R-U-R-A. And this principle can temporarily permit otherwise forbidden actions if survival or preservation is at stake. Hold on, folks. I gotta move around here. Okay, I've got a couple of blocks that I used to. Okay, here we go. Is at stake. So, examples traditionally include eating forbidden food to avoid starvation, concealing belief under torture, emergency exceptions during crisis. Some rulers and militants historically stretch this principle very broadly, but mainstream jurisprudence traditionally tries to limit it. Number 7, extremist interpretations. Certain. What do I do with my glasses? Okay. I've been reading this whole time without my glasses. This is weird. Okay. Let's go here. Give my eyes a chance to. Okay. Let's see. Okay, certain extremist militant groups in modern times have used selective readings of the Taqiyya, necessity, and or wartime deception to justify terrorism, infiltration, false surrender, hostage tactics, and or violation of treaties. Mainstream Muslim scholars generally argue that those uses distort classical Islamic law. Let's see. So to summarize, Taqiyya is concealment under persecution. Kitman is withholding information. Tawriya, Tawrya equals equivocation. There's wartime deception and necessity doctrines. Let's see. Okay, I'm at the end here. Wow, what do you know? So let's get rid of this and bring this down here. So anyway, folks, you can see that it's very complex. Not just Taqiyya, but there's all these different things that give Muslims permission to lie and cheat and do whatever they have to do in order to win. Okay? And you could say that all war is like that, you know. And I could agree with you in many different aspects of that statement. But some of the stuff that has been done in the name of Allah or whatever, according to Hudit and other things, go above and beyond what reasonable and legal warfare are all about. You know, it's terrible. It really is to think that, like I said, you know, you could, if somebody were to walk up to me and say, "Are you Christian?" Well, I could use one of those things that they use and say, "No, I'm a Messianic." Okay, which is another word for Christian, right? But a Christian that's Jewish and holds to the law of Moses to a little degree, anyway. So if a person was wise, they'd say, "Well, that's the same thing." Then I'd have to say, "Well, yes, then I am." You know, I'm not gonna. That would be the fork in the road, okay. The other thing would, if I was a coward or wanted to practice one of these things that they do. I can say, no, you know, I hate Christians. They just bug the heck out of me. It's, you know, I'd rather die than be a Christian, you know. It's, and that would be, I can't explain to you what Yeshua would do in a case like that, because he was very adamant about being true to your school, so to speak, or being true to your faith. And if it meant dying, then that's what happened, you know. And it's going to come to that, too, during the tribulation period, because we are promised that the Satan's going to go to war against the saints and that he's going to prevail over them. And there's a scene in heaven where they're all worshiping Yahweh, but they all ask him, "How long are you going to wait till you avenge our blood? How long until those who have killed us or maimed us or made our lives miserable? How long until they're going to have to get out?" You know, just so anyway, these are the tactics. So that's why when I read the news or I hear the news, by the way, I listened to some guy, his name is Tusi, Tousi. I might have talked about this before. I don't remember if I have. He's Iranian of Persian descent. And when he was a teenager, he escaped from Iran and moved to London, and he's been living there ever since. And looks like he's made something for himself. You know, he hasn't just gone on the dole and taken. No, he went to Britain. He got educated, and what a really nice guy. Anyway, if you go to YouTube and you go to Tusi TV, it's tousi.tv. A lot of times, if things are really heating up in Iran, he has maybe 2 or 3 times a day he'll get on for an hour or two, and he has different things that are sent to him from people in Iran, different videos or sound clips and stuff like that. So it's definitely worth watching, and you're going to see that you're getting the truth from him, because he's getting the truth from what's going on in Iran. Yeah, if you're going to try to get a soda or what out of it, I would just skip it and go with the real thing, so to speak. But anyway, I enjoy watching him because, I mean, he gets stuff like, he'll be into one thing and he'll go, oh, I got some more stuff to give to you. You know, more news, more breaking news and stuff like that. And he'll, and then oftentimes he has videos that are sent from Iran to him, you know, and excellent way to watch the war. There are others out there that are doing that, but there's nothing like Meyer Tusi. So anyway, yeah, if you want to keep abreast on what's going on over there, then watch that. But according to what he's saying, that the Iranian people are pretty organized, and that they're organized along with former policemen and former military people, and that they're ready to go. They're ready to do this, you know. But for some reason, we're a little shy on sending weapons and ammunition to these people. I don't know why. Perhaps, pardon me. Perhaps someday I'll know why, but I don't know now. And so anyway, I'm watching this thing, and Trump's saying, well, you know what, I want to have a ceasefire. And I'm like, no ceasefire. Keep after these bastards until they're all dead. Pardon my French, folks. I'm sorry, but, you know, when there's evil in this world, it needs to be taken care of. Not mollycoddled. It needs to be taken care of, popped, capped, whatever you want to call it. And so that it is no more. So, anyway, that's why when I watch the news, I'm a little frustrated with what Trump's doing. But at the same time, I don't know his mind, because I know he changes everything. What he'll say in 5 minutes, in 20 minutes, he'll change his mind and say something else. So, and if that's what he's doing, if he's doing it on purpose, then God bless him, because he's really confusing the Iranians. They don't know what, not the Iranians, those are the enemies of, I'm talking about the enemies that are fighting for the IRGC, or are the IRGC. But, sorry, folks. Anyway, so we need to pray a lot. And I know Trump's a smart man, and I know that everything he does is for a reason. So I think that everything that's going on is for a reason. So I'm not really worried about it, but it concerns me a little bit. Anyway, that having been said, now that we've looked at the way that Muslims do things, when they're pressed against the wall or are backed up into a corner, then we can watch what's going on in the Middle East now. We can watch what's going on, especially in Iran and in other places like Lebanon. And we can maybe even know the mind of the terrorists a little bit more than we did before. So anyway, I hope President Trump gets this video and watches it. I really do. And if any of you have the way of getting it to him, please do it. Even if all of you have this, just everybody do it, okay? I just want him to know that don't trust the bastards. Don't think that they're actually out to sue for peace at any means. They just want to regroup so that they can come back and kill us, okay? May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May he make his face to rise upon you, be gracious unto you. May what you're going out and you're coming in, you're rising up and you're lying down. And may he give you the peace that passes all understanding. For my Jewish brethren, Shabbat Shalom, pretty soon. Those of you on the East Coast, it probably is already. And those of you in Israel, I know it is already. But anyway, have a good weekend, everybody. Just go out and have some fun. It looks like it's going to be nice in most places. And don't sit home. Even if you go out and work in the yard, at least it's something. And remember to keep this ministry in prayer, okay? Keep me in prayer and help Yahweh to, or pray that Yahweh puts a hedge of thorns around me to keep the evil one away from me, okay? I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I'm gonna keep fighting this and fighting, and may Yahweh's name be blessed as he takes actions and fights for my life and my and everything that I have. So. Scriptures. So what does the scripture say? Bless the Lord my God, who gave me my hands to war and my fingers to fight. So, anyway, I'm gonna get out of here, folks. God bless you, and see you sometime early next week. Okay, bye, and know that you're blessed and loved by Yahweh.